Today's big show focuses on research and social sciences. What research methods do sociologists use? Well, there are two main categories of research that are done: quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative research uses numerical data. Qualitative research focuses on a narrative and description. They both serve useful purposes, but they're different. A survey, which is one tool that it's the most popular tool that sociologists use. People are asked a series of questions, and it's the easiest way to collect lots of data quickly. Researchers describe the people surveyed in terms of populations and samples. A population would be all those people with the characteristics that researchers want to study. If you want to find out about what high school students think about something, you're going to interview high school students. That would be the population. A sample would be a limited number of cases drawn from the larger population. You may not need to interview all 1,300 students at Urbandale High School to get an idea of what Urbandale High School students are thinking. A representative sample would be a sample that accurately reflects the characteristics of the population as a whole. So, for example, in the Urbandale High School students, you don't want to survey just randomly select students. You have to make sure you have a sample of freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and you need a number of people who represent, if the numbers of each class is exactly the same, then you can have the same number from each class, the same number of freshmen, same number of sophomores, etc. But you need to break it down by gender and by race. The survey types include questionnaires and interview. A questionnaire is a written set of questions that survey participants answer by themselves. And I'm sure you all have taken surveys. An interview is when a trained interviewer asks questions and records the answers. Now, in an interview, there are two types of questions: closed-ended and open-ended questions. Closed-ended questions are questions that the person answers from a predetermined list. Surveys can have closed-ended or open-ended questions. The predetermined ones, the closed-ended, you don't have any choices. It's like a yes or no, or you make from a predetermined selection. Open-ended, though, are questions that you put things in your own words. Open-ended questions give more accurate information, but then it's harder to deal with that data because each individual person may say something completely different. Another type of research that's done would be called secondary analysis. This is pre-collected data, using pre-collected information for data collection and research purposes. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to that. The pre-collected data provides lots of information, and some of it's high quality. And you can use existing sources without redoing it, and you can have information over a long period of time. And the researcher cannot influence the answers because it's already been collected. There are disadvantages, though, to secondary analysis. The existing information may not exactly suit the researcher's needs because it was gathered for a different reason. And sometimes pre-collected data are outdated. For example, I was in a meeting looking at research and information about teaching and about schools, and it was giving data that was collected in the 1980s. Frankly, anything that talks about about teaching and about working with students today, about information data that was collected before smartphones came into existence, has very little reliability or usefulness for us. And little may be known about the collection methods. The people who first collected the data or the collection method may have been biased. If you have an attitude about If you don't really like high school students and you're collecting data about them, you can arrange the questions to make their answers look bad. And I want to have a final say about, or a final comment about data. It's important to use data correctly. Do not use data as a drunkard uses a light post. A drunkard would use a light post for support rather than the illumination that the light post is supposed to be designed for. Lots of people do research in which they pick data that supports their position rather than using the data to illuminate and then coming up with a theory from what the data tells us. You handpick data, you can get it to say anything you want. Let's go talk a little bit about field research. That would take place in a non-laboratory setting. And that one type of this might be a case study, or another type of research might be a case study or an intensive study of a single group, incident, or community. All of these things can be qualitative or quantitative. It's all the type of research that sociologists would use.